This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za.
And every single Tuesday at 2, we get into issues that have to do with our culture. And today, at the start of Heritage Month, we decided that we're going to talk about the slightly thorny issue, that of tribalism. Now, during South Africa's long struggle for freedom, tribal loyalties were set aside in favor of a united front to conquer apartheid. But 26 years after the first election, tribalism, that most taboo of subject, is back with a vengeance. In fact, I have a personal experience when it comes to tribalism because there are certain issues that you grow up around where, for instance, gekmovement, you grew up being told that Bapedi are stupid, Bapedi ba na le ditlhogo tse kgolo, Bapedi this, that, and a third. And you sort of have a slight, what's the word I'm looking for? Not wanting to speak Sepedi in public because the moment somebody realizes that Umupedi, automatically you feel a little bit judged. So you have that little bit of trying to protect yourself, right? But at the same time, was it this year, last year, there was a joke that had been doing the rounds for many, many years. There is a certain comedian who had put out these videos, and I posted it without even thinking about it on social media, and I got attacked for it. In hindsight, I understood why somebody would have seen that as tribalism, but I was not looking at that video from a very conscious point. I looked at it as, oh, okay, here's this video. It is funny. And, you post it. But once you see how that affects the next person, then you realize, you know what? There are certain things where we need to be slightly conscious of how people feel when it comes to their tribes. But even with that said, it then raises the question, why have we become so sensitive when it comes to our tribes? How did we get to this level of certain tribes feeling as though they are better than other tribes? What is the history behind that? That's why we are in conversation with Mkhulu Nsingiza, who is the CEO of the Zinzi Mandela Foundation. Thokoza Mkhulu.
Thokoza, nephila ndlovukazi.
Right, you cannot complain at all.
Thokoza.
When we had you last on the show, we had said that we're going to get into the issue of tribalism, and the day has arrived. What do you think is the cause of tribalism in South Africa? Because as I mentioned, sometimes you get this belief that some, like Animal Farm, some tribes are more equal than others.
Yes. I think the history stems from, the wars. The internal wars that we had amongst, ourselves, especially here in South Africa, where, those tribes that, couldn't win the war, they were then put under, certain tribes and kingdoms.
Yes.
So I think it stems from there that, certain tribe was defeated by this tribe, but this is, the foundation of what, you'll find that the Zulu people will look down upon all other, tribes that, have been defeated, by the Zulu kingdom. So, they would call, Abesutu Gutakbona Bantu into Zinjalo. So those are things that are affecting us. And I hear complaints about people from, Limpopo, Amashangane, all those things. There are all these negative, which are things that have been, said, Amavenda, all those. They take them as, people that are of a lower class. So, so Isugala for the foundation of all these things, because remember, we had a time, for war. Yeah, all over the world, there was time for war. So it was the survival of the fittest.
Yes.
And this thing, doesn't affect South Africa. All over the world, it's like that. Those that have been defeated are then looked down upon, by those, who claim victory over them. So, but for me, I think what is missing, it's a national vision, because it is possible, yes, I am from Amangwane, clan or tribe, but, I belong to the bigger family, of the African family. So if we can deal, with that and set out a clear vision for us as African people, I think that is the only way. Because, yes, we need to promote, the culture, the different cultures that we have as African people, but we should have a bigger vision. I always say that, what you see the model in Great Britain, where there's the queen at the top, is the same thing that can be replicated here, where Amakosi are united at the top. As an example, let's say President, Cyril Ramaphosa comes in as a president. Because we have too many, or many kings and queens in our country, they would then have to change. If a president has 2 terms, it means the king as well will have 2 terms. They rotate like that just to maintain that unity and stability in the country. And this is where the vision should actually come from. I think if we're to promote that type of a thing so that, our kings and queens are also respected, like the Queen, in Great Britain, they should be up that are in politics, meaning which the political structure then becomes the implementation structure, but the vision is given by Makosi and Makosigazi at the top.
Mkhulu, let's take it back to the beginning. In my limited knowledge of South African history, the one thing I do know is that at some point we were all united. And then when colonialization happened, that's when we were all divided into different areas of the country, right? And that's how you ended up with the different tribes. Why is it that at whatever point that these different tribes or the different people were separated, why is it that we did not find a way back then of still remaining unified?
We couldn't because, the apartheid system made it a point that it becomes their agenda to separate, us.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer so that they are able to actually deal with us. Remember that, when they came in, some of the kings were actually, overpowered. The point that they gave in, they surrendered, to these white colonizers who came here.
Yes.
And, then those people formed alliances, with the white army to attack other tribes and clans, so they put them under their control.
Yes.
So it was that type of a thing, because when they deal with the head, the body then that, just follows. So this is how, apartheid system started, and this is how it was maintained, as it continues to be maintained today through political system. That is why we are so weak as African people, because we are following this politics that divide us, instead of coming up with a crafting that one vision that we will all follow, because we want the same thing. We want the land, we want the economy, so there's no need for us to address those things whilst, having so many divisions. We will never get where we want to be with all these divisions.
I then want to ask you, Mkhulu, because you're talking about having almost a unified monarchy when it comes to the different tribes. But then one says, if we want to have a unifying monarchy, why do we even need to have the different classifications within the different tribes? Can we not do away with saying, I am Xhosa, ke Mopedi, ke Motswana, I am Movenda? Why can we not just do away with that completely? Are we ever going to get to that point where we've done away with the different tribal classifications?
No, I don't think we should, because I'm proud to be, from the tribe of Amangwane. Somebody is proud to be from, the Sotho clan, So all we need, because that in itself, it has its own rituals, its own cultural practices. So, as a fan, so we need that thing. We need to promote that, but knowing that at the top, there's a vision that binds all of us, because these different, tribes were formed because sometimes you find that a son goes and builds, their homestead somewhere. They end up not using the surname, that they left at home. So those people, they call themselves with the name of their leader. So, certain, tribes were formed, in that way. But there's nothing wrong with that, for umsutu to practice ubusuthu bakhe. That is pride amongst the people. We should never kill that. But lamakhosi namakhosikazi have to find a way to unite us, because of course unite. That is why amakhosi are not supposed to be seen to be participating in politics, because they are supposed to be a uniting, symbol. Yes. Of the people. Yes. So this is their role. This is what we expect of them, to promote that unity amongst the different, tribes.
If I'd like to join in on the conversation as we're talking about tribalism, do give us a call on 0861 We are on the line with Mkhulu Nsingiza, who is the CEO of the Zinzi Mandela Foundation, on Twitter using the hashtag Power Lunch. Mzenze says, loving the discussion. I wanted to express that there is a significant difference between conquest and domination. Our ancestors were conquered, which we accept, but we as Black South Africans in 2020 cannot accept domination. What are your views on that, Mkhulu?
No, I fully agree. I'll make an example which is a topical issue, with regard to what happens, in KwaZulu-Natal. There are other, tribes there in KwaZulu-Natal that feel that they are of the same rank with, Undabezitha Inkosi, of the Zulus. Yes. So, they believe that they should be accorded the same status, with, Undabezitha. Yes. So there is that domination that says, yes, Tina, we are from this tribe, and we are older than Ubukhosi Bagwazulu. You understand? So we should be given upper state that equals. And we want our independence, from, the Zulu nation, because some of them, came in under Ushaga. Yes. Most of, the surnames that are there. So some of them are actually crying out for that independence and, self-determination. So these are the challenges that we still have as, South Africans. Some of them are feeling that they are being dominated by, the Zulu, kingdom, and yet originally they were not part of the Zulu kingdom.
While we're working our way to getting this unifying monarchy in the country, which I hope can happen someday, how do we begin the healing process with regards to the disdain and the dislike of one another based on which tribe one comes from?
Oh, yes. This is what we've been pushing from 1994. We've been calling on, political leaders and as well as, our royals to say, because we had been in a period of war, we need to do a national ceremony or ritual of Ugulahla Imikhonto, to go and inform our ancestors that we are at peace now. Yes. We are no longer fighting each other. Can they then, even those that died, holding, Imikhonto in their hands, can they, let them down now? Put them down so that, they also on the other side promote peace in the spiritual world so that we can also experience it here in South Africa. So, but we never did, all those things. That's why there's still a lot of animosity amongst, the black tribes in South Africa. It's those rituals which were, overlooked. Yes.
I see Thabiso in Randburg wants to get in on the conversation. In fact, he wants to recommend a book for us. Welcome to the show, Thabiso.
Hello, I've come to steal family secrets.
How are you, Mesikwane?
A great topic. So important at this time. There's a book that I've just finished reading by Mama Nomavenda Matiani called Eyes in the Night, which talks about her grandmother's experience of the wars, the Battle of Isanzwana, and the relationships between the warriors and the different groupings within the Zulu kingdom, and how apartheid has actually ravaged the unity that even within. So I'm saying that the tribalism is not only between different tribal groupings, that within specific tribes, a lot of divisions have been sown.
That is true.
Because some of the division came through with the missionaries as well. So the combination of apartheid and the missionaries wreaked havoc. And my question is, how do we start the process? My question to Koko is, how do we start unlearning what we need to unlearn? Because as you said, there's something important about our heritage, about who we are in terms of our identity, belonging to a particular grouping. Yeah. But how do we unlearn what has poisoned us that is not of us?
How do we unlearn that? Because as she mentions, we do have those divisions even within specific tribes.
Yes, Dlovukazi, that is the role here, Makhosi kahle. So, if Amakhosi are not, stepping up to that position, Tina, on the ground, we've got to make it live, because really these divisions are not really, real. For us to progress as a collective of people, we need to forge that unity. Yes. And that unity can be forged, because Amakhosi are still busy. I don't know they are busy with what now, but it doesn't stop us on the ground, to promote, programs that foster that unity amongst ourselves, because that is what we need, especially to deal with the socio-economic, challenges that we continue to face. True. We really need that unity. So if Amakhosi are not going to step up to that position, that is why, Tina, as the foundation, we've been promoting that unity, and that unity outside politics. So that because the politics is divided, it's divisive by nature. True. So we need to step away from politics and look at us. We as African people, what is it that we want to see, in about 20 years, and how can we start, doing that? Otherwise, if we're to rely on, Amakhosi and Amakhosikazi currently and the politicians, that unity will always, be elusive. As the unity of the African Union or of Africa, it's so much elusive. It was elusive even then during Kwame Nkrumah. It's still as elusive as that because of self-preservation. There are people who enjoy this position that divide Africans. They need to move away from that position so that we look at the future of Africa, where we should be as African people. And, we can never solve those problems without unity.
Indeed. And of course, language being a barrier where we are concerned. Frans and Hammanskraal, that's a point that you wanted to touch on.
Good afternoon, Mpho. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I want to talk about tribalism. I think language barrier is the main cause of tribalism.
How so?
As you can see, and tribalism is dividing Africa. If you can see far North Africa, from Ethiopia to Sudan, people are killing each other because they want to dominate.
The Rwandan genocide was based on tribalism.
Come again?
The Rwandan genocide was based on tribalism.
I think it was a tribalism. Yeah, so, and other people, they associate population, ethnic population with domination.
Yes.
I was telling another guy last week. So he want to dominate. He said, no, but you are majority. I said, no, but you are not in breeding competition.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter you are majority, some tribe are minority. At the end of the point, we are not in breeding competition.
I agree with you. Thank you so much, Frans in Hammanskraal. We also have James and Santon wanting to get in on the chat. James, welcome to the show. What's your question or comment for Mkhulu?
I don't know if it's a question or it's a comment, but I don't understand this king stuff, because how did the kings acquire the land that they've got? To me, it's still dividing, because the kings are the ones who are benefiting and their families. They are royal blood and so on. What about us? if I'm Venda, if you go to Venda, the Chivasa, the Mpepus are the ones who own all the piece of land. Did they create that land? Or it was taken from other people, like what the white people came and do here in South Africa? To me, it's also dividing. This chief stuff, I don't get it. I don't get why is it that they've got royal blood and I don't.
Let's hear what Mkhulu has to say. Let's hear from Mkhulu. Mkhulu, James says, I don't understand these chieftaincies. What is their purpose?
I fully agree with him. What does Umkhosi represent, because it's associated with a privilege, today. But it wasn't like that before. And we can still go back there. You'll find that, Umkhosi is being corrupted by politics.
Yes.
Where, Amakhosi follow politics instead of the other way around. Amakhosi should take the lead. And another thing, when it comes to the question of land, umhlaba doesn't belong emakhosini. Amakhosi are just custodians. Ingakho mawuye emakhaya, I'll make an example ekhaya leBakersfield. Yes. When I'm ready now to go back home, ngiyenkosini lapha ngiyocela indawo yokwakha. Yes. I'm not going to pay. Nobody owns the land.
Yes.
All over the continent, this thing of title deeds, it's a new thing that was introduced by colonizers. Nobody buys, nobody owns land in Africa. Everybody has a right to the land, and you don't have to purchase anything. So there's a lot of, corruption and, political influence in royal, houses. People, are also suffering this generational curse of, self-preservation. Me and my family, once that it's sorted, Inkosi, according to us, is the one that waits for everybody else to be sorted.
Yes.
Then the community builds, Inkosi nenkosikazi, isgodloge, after the community has been taken care of. So, Umkhuba, this is an adopted character of our royals today where, they are so greedy, everything must actually come to them first. It wasn't like, that, before. Ubkosi, it's not about, Ubkosi, into your moya, it's a spiritual thing. It has nothing to do with physicality, amassing wealth, at the expense of the people, whereby now Inkosi Lapa is living in a mansion and is surrounded by poverty. That, it's not African. Inkosi yiyo that benefits last.
Aha. I see Dr. Ramoroka would like to get in on the conversation. Doctor, welcome to Power Lunch.
Thank you very much. I think, look, this is a very interesting topic for me, because I'm also a historian and research within the African communities, especially within the Barolo, in Masike. Just to look at the Botswana generally, you've got the Bahuruti, the Bahata, you've got a lot of them.
Yeah.
But you do have a grouping like Barolo. They don't have a kingdom on their own. They are themselves divided.
Yes.
So you've got the Bahata who don't have a king. You've got the Bahuruti who don't have a king. They are divided. Generally, amongst the Botswana, the Bahuruti are highly regarded in hierarchy.
Yes.
And that is why you see somebody like Mangope was coming from that particular group and was regarded as a legitimate, in bracket, king-like, But the subject of the division of ethnicity is very big, I can assure you.
Yes.
It's not going to be easy to be sorted out because, I can tell you, within the Botswana, there's no king. You don't hear anybody talking about let's go and coronate a king. One other thing that I also want to mention, we don't need to give too much, praise to the colonialists. And some of the divisions happen internally.
Yes.
What the colonialists did was to exploit those divisions,
Yeah.
And I know within the Barolo. So it's very complex. I'm not so sure that we are going to have one unitary nation called, African people. I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
But you would always have the dominant linguistic groups in South Africa, like your Zulu, your Xhosa, your Tutus.
Yes.
They would dominate.
Yes.
And I'm saying, if it was possible, if they had kings, the three,
yeah,
it is possible that those of them can negotiate and possibly decide that one carry trade amongst them for a particular period.
Which is literally what Mkhulu had spoken about, that perhaps we need that unifying monarchy that is going to unify all the different tribes in the country.
Yeah, but to try and engulf or make a certain ethnic group disappear, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, yeah.
Yeah, and then because also why should it happen?
True.
We have to coexist, and we have got to respect each other. We are all Africans.
Yeah.
We've got a lot in common,
Yeah.
And then, so I'm just saying that, there's a lot that we can say about this, to be honest with you, Mpho. I believe that one of the reasons why we have a problem now is because when we were fighting amongst themselves, just like the Europeans during the Dark Ages, we were interfered with by the Europeans. So we could not realize ourselves and unite ourselves.
Yes.
So that's where the divisions became almost permanent.
Yeah.
Because since they arrived, they didn't go back, they just stayed here.
Yeah.
And therefore we remain as individual small ethnic groups. Yeah.
Dr. Ramroka, thank you very much for your views. That is the Director of the National Examinations and Assessment Department giving his views. Mkhulu, can I please place you on hold and borrow just 5 minutes of your time so we can wrap up this conversation after the news headlines, please?
No problem, Devuka.
It is 14:32, time for us to get into the news headlines and the traffic. On the other side of that, we're going to continue and conclude our conversation on tribalism.
You're listening to Power Lunch with Mpho Letsholonyane. 1 to 3 p.m.
It is 14:35 as we wrap up the conversation that we're having with Mkhulu Nsingiza, who is the CEO of the Zinzi Mandela Foundation. We are, of course, talking about tribalism and how we can try and get to a different level as a people. Mkhulu, when we were talking before we went to the news headlines, we were trying to find a solution. And as I'm having a conversation with our technical director, Owen, we're wondering, can we possibly get to a level where out of the 11 official languages in the country, we give children an opportunity to at least choose 3 to learn in school so that we can try and bridge a gap between us as different tribes?
Yes, that is, possible. We will get, to that, stage, but, that requires us, to form a collective, vision as, African people within the borders of Africa, first, whereby, all languages are respected and all languages. It's just that, sometimes egos come, and block some of these initiatives, because there's no reason why we can actually, just appoint one of the languages so that it becomes an African language, an African, medium of, instruction in the country. There's no reason why we can't do that. If we were to sit down, as mature people, we can find that solution. So ego should never stand in the way of unity, because we need that unity. And another thing that is because when you think of an African solution to this problem that we are, experiencing, and you want to look for solution, but you still operating under this Western construct, the political and the economic structure that we operate, under. You would look at this and say, this thing, it's well entrenched and it's going to be here, for foreseeable, future.
Yeah.
But then if you are able to then, do that shift in terms of, focus and say, yes, there could be a parallel system that we start, with that led by those royals, as a parallel system that will then, be strengthened, so that this other one, because it's something that was imposed on us, it's not our tried and tested governing system, it must fall on its own. So we need to build afresh. You can't, when you build ngesizulu, sithi ayibuseli phezu kwenye, meaning ukuthi when a king or a departed king goes or leaves us, then the new king or, someone who's supposed to replace can't rule where the king was ruling from. Yeah. They've got to go and choose a new place, that will be started right from scratch so that you invite even the positive energy there. So this is what was supposed to happen in 1994, whereby all these political formations, kings, and queens were supposed to then meet and form a unity as to how we move forward. But we didn't do that. What we then did is to continue with Umbuso Wabelungu. Yes. That is why we find ourselves in these positions. And a lot of people, you can't blame them when they lose hope that would we ever achieve this unity that, we need, because they see this structure and there's no comprehension as to whether is it possible to then build a parallel system that will be based on everything that is African.
Oh, Mkhulu, it seems like we still have a very, very long way to go in terms of trying to unify ourselves as Africans, as, Black South Africans, before we can try and say, let's unify ourselves with the rest of the continent. Thank you so much for your views, as always. Very insightful. I really, truly, and honestly always enjoy conversating with you.
That
is Mkhulu Nsingiza, who is the CEO of the Zinzi Mandela Foundation. The one thing that is becoming very, very apparent is that we still have a very, very long way to go when it comes to tribalism. Perhaps language is going to be one of those things that will assist us on this journey. But before we completely get out of this conversation, I see Phumlani in Roodepoort has been on the line for quite some time wanting to give his comment on the subject. Phumlani, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mpho. How's it?
I'm good, and you, sir?
Great, thanks. Great conversation. I love this conversation.
Thank you.
It seems to me, Mpho, that identity politics, it's something that's in a human brain.
Yeah.
So I'm going to elaborate on that. I think let's just do a quick thought experiment.
Yeah.
If we were all same color, same height, we were probably going to form tribes based on eye color.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
You're saying it's almost a sense of belonging.
Yes. And remember now, behind it, like a tribe is an abstraction. It's an abstract word. It means nothing.
Yeah.
You could have been anything. It's just an abstraction. It's a name. It names something, but it's not the thing. So behind that Xhosa or whatever, you're going to have a set of values and a language.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So those things, it's not things that we can forfeit.
Yes.
So if we want to get rid of tribalism, we're going to need to look at those values. But whose values we're going to choose now? Are we going to use the Zulu values? Are we going to use the English values? You know what I'm saying? So, but what I think, what happened in my family, Mpho, my wife is from Zim. So we kind of like a tribeless type of a family. Mm-hmm. So for instance...
When you say tribeless, what does that mean?
Like my kids, my daughter, my oldest child speaks Zulu. Mm-hmm. My wife is Ndebele, I'm Xhosa.
Okay, so you don't assimilate to a one specific tribe within the household.
Yes.
You're a multi.
We kind of like morphed into I can't even explain it.
Into something that works for you.
Yes, yeah. But I think that the way forward is intermarriages. If we could promote intermarriages, now it's going to be difficult to call other people whatever, you know the term. You know what I'm saying? When your child is half whatever, do you feel me?
Okay.
Yeah, but I like great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Phumlani in Roodepoort, saying perhaps we need to start having intertribal marriages that will then, try and get away from one feeling like Naki Muzulu, Naki Mupedi, and that's that. Siposetu, welcome.
Hi, Mpho, how are you doing?
I'm good, and you, sir?
Great. For me, tribalism continues because it serves the political agenda in this country.
Yes.
I think that for the longest of time, the same way a lot of people would say they're rejecting Jesus because the white or the colonizers used the image to make themselves look better than. Mm-hmm. So the same thing could be said about culture as well. Mm-hmm. The mere fact that we're living in a country where for the longest of time, the presidents were of the Mguni languages,
yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And Therefore, that was the highest office, the biggest icon. Nelson Mandela was not Tsonga, was not Venda. And we've seen what even the channel like SABC1 being the biggest channel made a deliberate choice not to include isiVenda and Shangani in that space. Whereby, even till today, when there's elections and stuff, you see the rallies that they do in KZN and see the rallies that they do in Eastern Cape. And then you see the rallies that they have in Limpopo, you know, and you realize that it's so political, and they use the separation and the tribalism to fuel that agenda. Because when we are separated, when we're not speaking in one language, when we continue to see each other as a threat, they can come and say, but I'm the solution to unity. I'm the solution to putting it together.
Yes.
So we need in our country to have a political, to silence the political voice. And even the fact that today our kids can't go to the cinema and watch a cartoon program or movie in their language says a lot about us in South Africa.
I hear you. Thank you very much, Siposetu in Tembisa. Moffat in East Lane, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Welcome to the show. What happened there? Confused again, Moffat.
It's just that I was not ready.
Oh, you were not ready. Okay, are you ready now?
But now I'm fine.
Okay,
yes,
perfect. What are your views on this issue of tribalism?
Okay, first of all, I will say I will concur with the previous speaker. I think we should not shy away that tribalism works hand in hand with religion as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because like Mkhulu just said now that Amakosi and whatever need to perform rituals. So you ask yourself in those rituals, how many people attend? Because already we have thrown away our African culture or African religion. So I think that also adds division towards each other.
Yes, I agree with you.
Because, for example, if you look at the Arabs, they are still united because they believe in one thing. But come to us blacks, we have already debated. We are rivals to each other because of religion and some other things. Yeah.
I hear you. Moffat in East Lane, Santu in Tembisa, Dumela.
Hey, how do you, Mpho?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good. This topic is very interesting because of tribalism. Kiki problem not too much in South Africa. How can we level South Africans? They foreigner did more the business, Runa, and then our automatic business. The reason why is because but why we united very busy laga Karwenam Sotum Kosam study business together. So I think with tribalism too much South African.
Yeah, you're right, because we look at people from a tribal perspective as opposed to from a human perspective.
It's like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Santu in Tembisa. Sillo in Mamelodi, welcome to the show.
Hey, awesome, Pogai.
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Can I please talk about, because the previous thing, the man that you was interviewing right now,
Mkhulu, yes.
Mkhulu,
yeah.
He said the tribalism was because of like certain tribes were victorious certain tribes didn't participate in the civil wars and others were victorious during them. But I want to talk about how Sekhukhune, how he fought the white people. He defeated the white people 2 times. On the 3rd time, they came with the Swatis from Swaziland, the troops from the Swaziland, which they ambushed him until they killed him. Actually, they arrested him. Then he was killed by Sekwati. And he's the only king from Africa whom, when he was killed, he was his death was published on the London Times. And you look at such history is not told in the mainstream media, you understand? And which, according to me, I think is because of when the white people came in Africa, in South Africa specifically, they came in Durban and Cape Town, which the areas which were dominating. Limpopo, Mpumalanga, those were the areas which were not there. Hence, history from that side is not being told.
But let's not forget, history is always written from the eyes of the conqueror, never the conquered.
Exactly. Now it seems as if Xhosas and Zulus are the ones that are dominating in South Africa, forgetting that we still have people like Amavenda, Songas, and Pedis. More especially the Pedis who contributed immensely within who contributed a lot within the history of South Africa. Yeah. And also, I want to talk about how apartheid manifested tribalism in South Africa. You look at Tembisa, KwaThembisa, you have a hostel called Entlazeni. You have a hostel called Setoga. You have the subsections called Maokeng, Teanong, Mtambeka. Those sections, they are named in accordance to the tribes which are living there. Back in the days, if you're from Mtambeka and you go to Maokeng, they don't want to beat you up. If you are from Setoga, you go to Entrance and don't want to beat you up. And those people, they apparently, actually, what they did was they segregated black people so that they can easily conquer them, divide and conquer, as you can put it.
Yeah. That's literally what Mkhulu was talking about, that everything just had to do with division and conquests more than anything. But at the same time, I need to also specify that if we are not putting ourselves in situations where you get to know a little bit of the history of not only the tribe that you belong in, but also the history of how everything came about, then you cannot tell your children the right history. Because at the end of the day, what they're learning in school is colonized education. You know, I mean, even when you look at our politics in the country, we don't really get the true sense of the politics that has happened in the country. It's always seen from one side of things.
Yeah. And you look at the likes of how the ANC started in the eastern part of South Africa, Eastern Cape. Back in the days, it was dominated by the Ngunis only. That is why even now, if you go to the lineage of ANC stalwarts, you would find most of them being the Ngunis, as if the babies, actually the tribes from the north, they never participated in freeing South Africa.
I hear you. Thank you very much, Sello in Mamelodi.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za.
The world seems to be collapsing under the weight of plastic being